Argentina has been front of mind for many this year thanks to the World Cup. But here on the All the Stops podcast, we'd be remiss if we didn't jump into the pipe organ scene of that wonderful country. So our guest today is Dr. Ezequiel Menéndez. He's a world-famous performer. He emigrated to the United States, attended Yale University, and he's currently the professor of practice and distinguished artist in residence in organ at the College of the Holy Cross. He's just finished up his 26-year tenure, I think, as director of music at the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Hartford, Connecticut. And he has a lot of fascinating stuff to share with us about Argentinian organ music, about the pipe organs in that country, and also a lot of his own personal feelings about how to maximize your time in practice, how to focus on projects, and the kind of things he tries to pass on to his students. So without further ado, let's jump into our interview with Dr. Ezequiel Menéndez. Ezequiel, thank you so much for being with us today on the All the Stops podcast. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for your invitation.
I'm so happy to have you here, and we have to start with the impressive background behind you. You've got to tell people I see pipes and glorious pipe shades and things. What is that?
Oh, this is my practice organ. It's a Noack from 2006. Fritz Noack built 3 organs in that time, and he called me and said, "You should buy this one." When he told me the price, I say, "No, I'm sorry, I cannot do that," because I had in that time I had 4 kids to send to college, and it was very difficult, very expensive, as you can imagine. But years later. He called me again, and Yuko Hayashi, famous organist from Boston, of Japan, but live in Boston, was a teacher at New England Conservatory. She had bought the organ that I had seen, and she was getting ill, and so I bought it from her, and I had one day to take it down from the apartment. We went with Noack and took it apart and brought it to my house. And they were so nice to give me like 5-6 years to pay. And this is one of the miracles in my life, having this organ at home.
It is stunning. I would love to have a pipe organ in my house, and I have a kid to put through college someday who was just born this year, so I'm not exactly on the market, but it must be tough. You have no excuse. You have to practice, right?
Yes, and also it shows everything, it's when you go to the church, things get lost, but when you practice at home with no reverberation and only 4 stops, there is no excuse to try to learn the right notes.
Yeah, right. Well, that's amazing. Thanks for being with us today. I want to start by talking about your kind of path to get to where you are, and let's start actually with where you are. You're straddling a couple of different New England states, working on some very interesting projects. Just tell people a little bit about what you do these days.
Oh, right now I am organ professor at the College of the Holy Cross, where the famous Taylor and Booty organ is. And also, I'm playing a lot of concerts, mostly in Europe, but some in the United States, some in South America, where I am from. I am from Argentina. And I am also the organist at the high school called Ethel Walker School, which is a beautiful boarding school here in Connecticut, where the kids bring their own horses to the school, and they have Eolen Skinner, beautiful organ. I just retired from the Cathedral of St. Joseph after 27 years, where I was a music director, organist, consultant for the diocese, where I helped many priests install new organs, use organs, find music directors. It was a very busy job. Now I feel like I have more time to practice and enjoy my family and um, the activities I like to do outside. I like sailing, and I like biking, and I like running, anything that is outside. So finally, I feel a little more relief after 27 years of many hours a week of work.
I would think so. We've been talking about balance quite a bit with a lot of our guests. We had Damon Spritzer on last week, and she was talking about balancing academic work, church work, and teaching, and sort of came to this sort of idea that it's like a three-legged stool, and that the three things influence each other and kind of help co-inspire. And I would say same thing in your case. I mean, being congratulations on your retirement, being at a cathedral program, teaching, being at a boarding school, and then driving. You drive up to Worcester to Holy Cross. I would think at least a couple times a week. How did you balance all of that?
It was crazy, but I am a little crazy, as you know. I, I you have to add four kids, and living in Connecticut, I did my doctors while I was already father of four, and I commute to Boston, and I did. I already had my full-time job, so it was hard. I didn't have for many, many years any social life. I couldn't go anywhere but do whatever had to do. And sometimes I felt like I had to cut corners and I was not doing the best I could. But one thing I never gave up was my practice time. I will get to the cathedral very early in the morning and I will not go to the office. I will go to the loft and I will practice first for a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. And I was not, I had told everybody that that was non negotiable. And I did that throughout my career. I always found time to practice. The few times I went to the office first, I didn't practice at all. So
Aha.
it was like first do what is in your training, like if you were training for a triathlon. No? First you do what you have to do, and then you can spend many hours on emails, phone calls, and calling musicians and talking with priests or whatever. But that is something I always did. And I am glad I did because it shows after many years that I had the discipline of practicing every day.
I want to explore that a little bit. Emails, we kind of joke and say, what do you do for a living? And it is, I write emails and occasionally I play music. And certainly that joke resonates for people in so many different fields. But how do you keep the mental space available to you to say, okay, I'm going to practice now, but I'm not going to think about all the stuff that's waiting for me in the office? Is there a discipline to that?
Yeah, I think if you do it for you don't look at the email in the morning and you go and you practice and you learn new music or you learn whatever needs to be learned for accompanying the choir or the next concert coming up. Um, and then you focus on the office work. You just focus instead of being in the office thinking I have to practice, I have to practice, I have to practice. Just do it first. That is how it works for me. Some other people, maybe somebody else has a different system, but I am the kind of player, performer that needs to practice. I don't like to be trying of sight reading or trying to. I need to learn the music in advance. Um,
Right.
so that is, uh, I think my best advice to the young generation is just leave the phone somewhere
Mm.
else
Hmm.
and just go and practice and do your work. It's only 3 hours. You have 13,
Sure.
14 hours a day to do things. You do
Sure.
2 hours practice every day, and that is a lot in a week.
Right.
And let's say you practice from 8 to 10 or 10:30 with a break in the middle, and then you are done for the day.
Yeah, yeah, right. And that's I mean a shorter stint of really focused good practice is probably going to get more done for you than 4 hours where you're constantly checking your phone, answering emails and you're distracted and all of that. I think that's a good thing to argue for people. Now you've been teaching for a while and I guess
Mhm.
you've taught now several different generations of people. Like the youngest millennials right now are probably 31 or something like that, or 30. So we're not even young anymore. And Gen Z is really kind of, they're getting old a little bit. Have you seen any trends over time in teaching different generations?
Oh yes, oh yes. And they are geniuses. I mean, the new generation, they're always on top of things, looking at the email, looking at the text, and yeah. But those who focus are the ones that go far.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. This episode is brought to you in part by Griffith Watch Company, the official timepiece of All the Stops Media. Griffith Watch Company is independently owned and not part of a large corporation or private equity group. Representing excellence in the homage space and custom projects alike, Griffith is a family-run American microbrand built piece by piece, shaped by real life lived around the sea, the sky, the racetrack, and the classroom. Founder Ralph Griffith is the father of a son with autism, and that shaped the way he thinks about what a business should be and what success looks like. For Griffith Watches, it's excellence and personalization. Supporting autism awareness has been part of their mission from the very first watch, and proceeds from every Griffith sale go to Autism Speaks. Visit griffithwatches.com to see their collection and learn more about their story, and you can use the offer code ALLTHESTOPS to get 10% off your order. Ralph is an amazing guy. Our first conversation lasted almost an hour as we traded stories about pipe organs and the mechanics of those and compared it to watchmaking, talking about how organs used to have clocks in them and all the amazing things that can come out of attention to detail and precision. Remember, it's small, it's founder-led, and you believe that matters in this industry today. There's so little of that going around. Every order is handled with care, and each watch ships with a completed warranty card and a handwritten note from the founder. Visit griffithwatches.com to learn all about it, and remember to use the code ALLTHESTOPS to get 10% off your order. griffithwatches.com. So we're going to talk about some of your really cool musical projects, but before we do that, I just want to ask you, tell us a little bit about how you got to the United States and that kind of whole story.
Okay, so when I was around 22, 23 years old, I met an American organist who came to Argentina under a Fulbright scholarship. Her name was Shirley King. She was from Kansas. From So she came to study the music of Alberto Ginastera, which is a famous composer for mostly orchestra, piano, but two organ works too. And she was doing her dissertation on Ginastera, and she's supposed to teach in one of the universities. Since the university was on a strike, she was bored, and she will teach us for free a lot of lessons. So I got to meet her um, and to enjoy her teaching. Um, then she invited me to come to Kansas for 9 months. So I came like a guest, a student. Not I was not registered in the college. Um, while I was visiting her, I took a trip to the East Coast um, to visit a friend who was studying conducting at Yale. One day he say, "Why don't go for a walk?" Because I had to go to class. So I went for a walk and I got into this beautiful hall. It was Woolsey Hall, and somebody was playing the organ.
Mm.
So I sat there. I was the only person in the hall listening to the organist playing. I had no idea who was. And in one point, he turned around and say, "Hello." I said, "Hello. Um, what do you do?" He say, and I say, "I play the organ." Um, oh, come and play. I had never played big organ like Woolsey Hall. So I sat and I play, and I was in good shape because in Kansas I had nothing to do but practice. Um,
Right.
and after I play a few pieces, he say, "Oh, by the way, I am Tom Murray. I am the organ
Oh,
professor. I am the organ professor here, and I would like if you can come and study with me." So that was my audition.
wow. Oh my
So,
goodness.
so my life was always guided by the providencia, and that was one of the moments that
Hmm.
I got to know Tom Murray. So I said, "Are you sure you are Tom Murray?" Because I had I had his records of Mendelssohn.
Yeah.
So and I somebody gave me those records, but I didn't know his face. So I had listened
Right.
to him playing for years and years and years, and suddenly I was meeting the person who was like
Wow.
I would always would have loved to study with him, dream to study with him, but I didn't know how to start to find the guy. And here I was
Sure.
in front of Tom, who invited me to come and study with him.
Wow.
I was very, very, very blessed, lucky. And Tom is still a good friend. We meet and have lunch maybe every other week or 3 weeks. Um,
Does
I
he
always
drive
got.
his Rolls Royce, his classic
Yes, yeah.
Wraith or Phantom or whatever he had to the lunch?
Sometimes, if the weather is good and we are
Yeah.
near his house, yes, he does. He's a
Oh, that's
wonderful
wonderful.
person, and I was a wonderful teacher, or like a father for me. Um,
That's amazing. What a story. And like, these are the things in life that you can't predict and you actually can't plan around them. Some things just happen in our pivotal moments. I've talked on the show before about literally it's that my mom looked down at a an ad in the paper and saw a pedals, pipes, and pizza and just said, well, we can do that on this day and that's fine. And that shaped the rest of my life forever. There are also moments that pop up like that along the way. And I mean, I can imagine just walking into Woolsey Hall. If people don't know it, it's incredibly grand. And that organ, I mean, it's got to be one of the largest organs in the state, if not the largest. And it's just the entire front of the room is pipe work. It's stunning, it's glorious, and it sounds even better. So that must have been just a really inspiring experience. When were you at Yale?
I was 1990 to 92.
Okay, so
But in the summer, another thing that happened to me that time is in the summer of 1991, I went to Boston to a class. They had a summer classes with Yuko Hayashi and Bill Porter. Um, and the first day I arrived, there were like 20 people in the class and in All West Church and the Fisk. And Yuko say, okay, you play, and asked me to play. And I played the toccata in C major by Bach from Toccata d'Action Few. She looked at me and say, um, have you ever been in Europe? And I say, no, you never play Bach well if you don't go to Europe. Okay. So the next day I arrived and what are you doing here? I arranged for you to go to study with Harold Fogel. So the
wow.
next, like a week later, I was on a flight to Germany, North Germany, and all my life it's been like that. And Yuko Hayashi is the same person, and later on sold me the organ. No,
Yeah.
so it's amazing how God works sometimes.
Okay, you've just been kind of waltzing from thing to thing through your life, and the carpet just rolls out for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it requires a lot of work, no? Because sometimes doors open, but you need to push it, and you need to rise to the occasion. When I got the job at the cathedral, I had no idea what was supposed to do. I was young, my English is not good, and but I took lessons. I went to conventions, and I learned how to do it, how to manage a big program. So
Mhm.
yes, if I have to do another advice for the young people is yes, when the doors open, push and then work.
push, push, and then work. I love it. So now you have, we'll say ostensibly you have more time. You have retired from something, so you're probably back to full time work or so. Are there any doors that have been opening lately for you then? So besides just kind of trying to take a little time with your kids and so forth, are you working on any upcoming musical projects?
Yes, in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I am playing in Methuen, two concerts,
Oh.
Wednesday and Thursday. I just came back from two trips, one from to Hungary and Serbia, and the other to Spain and Germany. Um, I have concerts coming up in Utah and in Buenos Aires in December. And last year I played a lot. I was very lucky. Um, I try to pick only those concerts that have good instruments and enjoy the journey, no?
Yeah.
Um, and preparing by contract, I have to do one concert or two, at least one at Holy Cross. So I am preparing my program for November 22nd, the day of Saint Cecilia. Uh, so yes, things are going well, and the best for me now, I enjoy when I see my students playing well. Uh, you you enjoy probably some of my students like Gavin, wonderful student, um, Jessica, Matt, Luca. We were very lucky. We are very lucky at Holy Cross to get some very talented kids.
Yeah, you've just sent well, Gavin, we've mentioned you've just sent him off to grad school at Yale, where you were years ago, where I was in between, and he's a fabulous player. We should have him on sometime just to talk about that Gen Z perspective on the pipe organ and all of that. But well, that's really really neat. I want to ask you, how do you build your programs? And when you see an organ coming up, do you say, okay, I'm gonna play exactly the type of music that you would expect to hear on this type of instrument, or do you say, okay, there's this stuff I want to play and I'm going to try something a little different and maybe adapt the instrument to it? Is it a dance between both of those approaches, or is it something entirely different altogether?
I try to match the sound of the instrument to the music that will sound best in that instrument, but also because I am Argentinian, many times the organizer asked me to play some Argentinian music. Like I mentioned, Ginastera. This time I am playing the Four Seasons by Piazzolla that I transcribed for organ. Astor Piazzolla was a composer of tango mostly, but it's music that mixes Bach, Gershwin, and tango. It's beautiful music. I met Astor Piazzolla. I was maybe 12, 13 after a concert. I went to say hello. And since then, I fall in love with his music. So usually I play one, two, three, or half a program of Argentinian music. So it's something that people don't hear every day. But if you have an organ like Holy Cross, of course, it's very specific. You have to play Baroque, mostly German. Um, Sometimes you can extend to Mendelssohn, Reger, small pieces. Um, but the organ dictates what sounds good on that instrument.
Hinastera, let's talk specifically now. I first learned of Hinastera through some harp compositions. I think he was also kind to the harp as an instrument. But how would you describe his music for people who maybe haven't heard it?
Yeah, first of all, let me share with you that I am from a town called La Plata, Laplata. And we have a system in Argentina or South America, similar to Europe, where you have conservatories of music. And the Conservatory of Music that I attended, that I went, it was a free school. You go from when you are 9 years old until you finish your undergraduate, maybe at 19 or 20. It was founded by Ginastera.
Really?
So yes. And Ginastera was a very good friend of my teacher.
Oh wow.
And so I have the organ piece called Toccata, Villancico, and Fuga, y Fuga, Toccata, Villancico, y Fuga. Um, I have a signed score that he
Wow.
gave to my teacher, and my teacher, when he died, gave me before he died, he gave it to me.
Wow.
Anyway, he changed a lot during his life, but he used it. Um, if I have to describe, many times he uses national folklore or rhythms into
Mhm.
his music. Like there is a piece for orchestra called La Estancia, and there is all this like uh, music that kind of shows the Argentinian landscape.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting, kind of depictive.
Yeah, yeah, but the organ pieces, there are two, and the first was is from 1947, the one I play a lot, and very different from the last one that was from 1982 for the AGO convention. One is totally a tribute to Bach and very kind of post-romanticism, and the other is totally avant-garde. So very different the way he developed through the years. Um, it is great music, fantastic music.
Yeah. Do you have recordings that people could listen to out there on Spotify or?
Oh, there is a YouTube of me playing the Toccata Vicenzi Config. Yes, there is
Okay.
a very good one actually because it was professionally recorded.
I actually need to go. I think I heard that like segments from that maybe in undergrad or something, and I have never sat and listened all the way through. So I'm going to do that actually after we're done recording. I'm very curious now. We have one more break, and we'll be right back to talk about so much more. Stick with us. Today's episode is brought to you in part by today's episode, the All the Stops podcast on Patreon, where you can go on for a small subscription fee, get an ad-free version of the show, as well as some bonus content coming soon, and support the back-end costs of making this show possible. If you love what we do here, we would love it if you would consider throwing a couple of bucks our way and supporting these great conversations about the pipe organ and how it works and who plays it and all that good stuff. If you're listening, you know why you're listening. Anyway, patreon.com/allthestopsmedia. Throw a couple bucks our way. It would help a lot. Thank you for listening to the show, and thanks for supporting what we're doing.
Hey, Andrew, do you think it's weird that we're advertising a website and podcast about board games on a podcast that's about the organ?
Well, I get how you can get there, Anitra, but the truth is, as you know, there are board games for just about everything these days.
That's true. In the last 5 years, we've seen Luthier, which is a board game about making violins, Ovation, which is a game about becoming a classical composer, and even Lacrimosa, a game about one of the world's most famous composers, Mozart, my favorite.
And if you like modern music, there's even games like Hi-Fi or Rock Hard 1977, and even Record, which is a game about playing the guitar.
6 games all about music that we listed in the last 10 seconds. We're guessing most folks out there have never heard of any of them.
It is a hard problem, but it's also exactly why we're here, to help people find games about the topics they care about.
We're Anitra and Andrew, married parents of 3, and we've been talking about board games on the internet for over a decade.
We usually talk about how it's going, playing games with the kids in our lives, and hopefully helping you play games with the kids in yours. Do they have a subject in school that they're really struggling with? There's probably a game about that. Just ask.
Find the Family Gamers podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and check out our reviews at thefamilygamers.com. You can also find us on social media at FamilyGamersAA.
So, in between those practice sessions, make sure to play games with your kids.
Let's talk about Argentina a little bit. There has certainly been a lot of chat about things recently, if anyone was following the World Cup, and I don't need to grill you on your thoughts there, although, well played. But I feel like in many discussions, people hear about Argentina in the United States through the lens of economic difficulties that emerged and some struggles with governance and the economy. Argentina was the richest place in the world in the early 20th century, as far as I'm aware, richer than Germany, richer than Spain, and all of that. But there, I think people miss so much more, and people kind of get that in their head, and they think about geopolitics, and they don't understand the land and the people and the culture and the music and the art. I know it's been a while since you've lived there, but you travel back. Tell us a little bit about what it feels like on the ground from the perspective of an organist. What are the instruments like? What might you expect to see in urban churches versus kind of rural towns, and a little bit of that?
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up because that is kind of it was my topic for my doctoral dissertation. I wrote a book called Historical Organs in Argentina, and it's online for free. It's ezekielmusic.com.
Okay.
Um, in PDF, you can see it. So as you mentioned, Argentina at the beginning of the 20th century, even 20, 30 years before that, it was one of the richest countries in the world because of farming and because of immigration and because Europe was not doing well. Um, Argentina was very rich. And then in around 30 or 40, 1940, the things started to go bad. And now it seems like we are turning around. I hope so, but we will never know for another 20 years if this really works, but they're trying. Now, in the time of uh, the colony, when we were part of Spain, the Jesuit priests that came taught the the people living there, the natives, how to build little organs and how to play. And one of the first composer to arrive in Argentina was Domenico Zipoli. Zipoli
Aha.
lived in Argentina. Anyway, because Argentina became so rich, sometimes that is good and that is bad because they throw away every organ in the 1890s and 1900s, every colonial organ, and they brought new organs.
Mm.
Argentina was very trendy, and people, owners of farms, will donate entire churches, and mostly the ladies will go to Paris and buy from the expositions cavalcade organs, or will go to Germany and buy some Walker organs. So, and also each neighborhood, each group of these ethnic groups that will arrive in Buenos Aires will settle in a section of the town and build a church. And the church of, let's say, the British people that came because they were bankers and insurance, they uh, build a church like Episcopalian church with a British organ. Then the Italians from the
Aha.
north of Italy will come and bring the stained glasses, the altar, the marble, and the organ from Italy. And same thing with the French. And so you walk in Buenos Aires, maybe in 1 mile, and you can play organs from 6 different countries.
Wow, that's incredible. That's got to
Yeah.
be that's the only place in the world that's like that. I from what I can think.
I am not sure, but yes, it's pretty unique.
Huh.
It's pretty unique. So I organize every other year or a tour that I bring people from United States, and we go there and we see all these organs. We listen to organ concerts, and some of these organs are in okay shape, but some are very bad, and some mostly need to be restored. Um,
Right.
but because there was no money from 1930 to now, those organs are untouched. So, for example, the cathedral in Buenos Aires has a Walker from 1880 or 79, which is very similar to Methuen, actually. But the original is still mechanical with a Barker machine. And there are several caballo calls. Um, even you go sometimes to a farm and you find a little caballo call organ in a house because somebody went to Paris and saw this organ before recorded music, and they bought harps, organs, and harpsichords, and they had people come in and play. So it's a rich country in that respect. That we had many historical, mostly romantic organs, a few early organs, um, but unique in that respect that you can walk and see all these see this one collection of wonderful musical instruments, organs.
That's fascinating. This principle you talked about extreme wealth, building new things, but then constantly destroying old things and upgrading, and that's the tale as old as time. Right here in Worcester, we and your student played at one of these churches, but we have two E.M. Skinners from the 20s that are dreams. They're just lovely, and one of them got restored, and the other one not yet, but we're hoping that it gets restored. But again, in the city of Boston, these classic, Boston style organs, there was a time not a single one was left in the city of Boston that had been untouched and hadn't been completely reworked and modernized. But Worcester had an economic downturn after the glory days in the early 20th century. And so, even though not all these instruments are in great shape today, they didn't rebuild them and they didn't rework them. And so, there's hope for them to be restored. And I guess the best case scenario would be that, the current economic policies that are at play in Argentina would be successful, and that someday, you could have the only version of some of these instruments in the whole world that's been untouched. Do you think that's a realistic thing? I mean,
Oh,
is it too early to tell?
oh no, no. I think things going to improve and things, and I think worldwide, we in the organ business or the organ art, we learn to respect history the last few years, the last 20 years or so. So while 40 years ago, everybody wanted electric action in every mechanical action that existed, today is not the case anymore. People respect Skinner, people respect. We are, we learn to, we learn to live with what we have, and it's very important to respect the original
Right.
instruments. The Organ
That's
Historical Society did a lot for this.
sure. It's a good point. And I think Yale University actually does a really good job of this because, and there've been organs added since you were a student in the 90s. I mean, now there is a Taylor and Booty we talk about in the chapel at Marquand Chapel, the same builder as Holy Cross there, which that big instrument was put in the late 80s, early 90s, late 80s, I think.
85
80
in Holy
in
Cross,
Worcester.
85, I think. Yeah, 85,
So then
1985.
so then that was a trendsetter, and for those who don't know, that was a really proper historic style that's kind of intended to be just like what you might have run into in the Netherlands or North Germany, where even the way the wood is and the way the stops are is heavy and physical and mechanical, and they're using the same alloys of lead and tin in the pipes so that everything is just like it might have been. But not long before that, there were these organs that were kind of transitional, or kind of, these Orgelbewegung instruments that are unlike anything that ever existed before in Europe, but they're also unlike what happened later. It could have been easy for Yale to say, okay, we're done with, the Battelle Chapel organ. Let's get it out of here. Let's build something more modern. But then even there, they champion that. Even though, yes, it's a weird organ, it's a strange instrument. It's a very particular type of organ building from a particular era, but it has something to say. And now students will go play recitals, on that organ, even though there's a very tiny, tiny repertoire that's exactly matched to it. But it has something to say, and so you figure that campus has a zillion different types of instruments that can all coexist side by side, and that's a really special thing. When you've taught in Worcester here, where the main organ you have is not, it's not limited, but as you said earlier, it dictates what you should play on it. How have you navigated that with your students to say, okay, you have this wonderful 17th century style instrument, but I also want you to learn how to play a Skinner. I want you to learn this. How do you approach that?
Yeah, we are lucky to be in Worcester, and there are so many good organs in the city. So we go to All Saints, we go to the Dobson organ, next door to the Holy Cross, beautiful organ. We go to the Skinners, so uh, yeah, we go around a lot. Um, we now have a practice organ, which is one manual and pedal by Dirham, but also we have an electronic. We are buying now actually a console from a pipe organ, converting it to hardware so the students can practice pistons and things right on campus. S- yeah, I think it's important, and in the future, hope uh, someday Holy Cross will have a romantic organ somewhere
Wow.
on campus. It will be
Break,
fantastic.
breaking news. You heard it here first.
No, 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 there is no plan yet,
No
but
plans yet. Yeah.
that is, I mean, This year we have 4 students. We went from
Wow.
almost closing the department to have
Wow.
4 students. So things are going well, and have a wonderful student coming from Texas, another from
Great.
Missouri, um, and then the 2 students that are there now. So uh, I think things are going well, and God knows. I mean, if that means to be, it will be.
Well, I believe somebody wise once said, if a door starts to open, kick it open and head on through. Ezequiel, thank you so much for your time. You've been so generous with your time today. Is there anything you'd like to shout out before you go? You mentioned Methuen concerts upcoming. Any recordings you have you want to draw people's attention to? Anything like that?
uh, No, no, I have several recordings. I was lucky on the Mendelssohn's birthday, 2009, to play the Flentrop at Harvard University, and I play all the sonatas in one concert, and that is
Oh
recorded.
wow! Oh wow!
uh, then I have a recording at Holy Cross. I have several recordings at the Cathedral of San Joseph, of course. I hope to finish the work I started with my dissertation by recording the organs in Buenos Aires. That would be the last step. I don't know if God will give me the strength to do it. I am 62, but I hope to do that in the next few years. Um, no, I want to apologize to the audience for my poor English. And so, I learned it when I was 24, after I met Tom Murray. Yale brought me a summer earlier so I could learn some English, but it's a struggle. So thank you so much for listening and for inviting me to this program.
Oh, we have so enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and we'll have to have you on again. I have a feeling that your recording project down there is going to work out, and that we'll have to hear all about it. So, Ezequiel, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you.
All the Stops podcast is a product and trademark of All the Stops Media LLC, and is recorded and produced by me, Wesley Hall. The music is written and recorded by me too. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. Thanks for listening.